What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Stroke of Luck. I'm your host, Tack, and today we're going to be speed painting an Infernus squad. I just got a new air compressor, so I was pretty excited to do some airbrushing. I started with a nice zenithal using some white ink. I then thinned down a 1-to-1 mixture of bloody red and scarlet red using about 50% thinner and a few drops of flow improver. I started slowly building up the saturation using my zenithal as a guide. This was only my 4th time airbrushing, but my dad is an airbrush artist, so he gave me plenty of tips along the way, and my new compressor was working great. After the base coat dried, it was time to move on to some edge highlights. I mixed my own orange using bloody red and sun yellow. This was definitely the most tedious part of this entire project. At first, I was trying to be careful and precise, but after about 2 Marines were done, I was entirely over the highlighting process. I tried to move fast and not worry about any little mistakes along the way. Next, it was time for some metallic silver. I'm using Folk Art brand, which isn't ideal, but I think I'm going to get some lead belcher for my next set of Marines. Let me know in the comments what your favorite metallic paint is, because this one just ain't it for me. After that, it was time for some polished gold. I wanted these guys to look like Blood Angels royalty, so I lined up all their shoulder pauldrons and I went ahead and gave them some gold face masks on their helmets. Batch painting made this whole process a lot quicker than doing them individually. I also decided to give the sergeant a gold trim on the sheath for his knife, which came out looking quite nice. Once all that glittery gold was done, it was time to move on to some black. I hit all the weapons and all the lining on the armor and the sheath on the sergeant. I also painted his wrist pad black, but I wasn't quite done with it yet. Next, I thinned down that same black with some water and did a nice wash for all the shading. I hit all the recesses on the armor and I went over all the metallic parts that we painted. After that was all said and done, I went on to the white. I went over all of the purity seals and the leather bits so I could lay down a nice layer of express paint. I diluted some bag of bones with some express medium. I found that for purity seals on its own, it's just a little bit too yellow. After that, I went all over the white with a thick layer of mahogany express paint. I'm not sure if I was doing something wrong here, but the mahogany came out very splotchy, and I had to add another layer to get a nice look. Next, it was time for the eyes. Using some electric blue, I carefully went in and I took my time to hit all the eyes. These ones aren't twins, but they are sisters. After that, I mixed the electric blue with some dead white and I added some highlights. After that, I did my best attempt at writing some script on the purity seals with black. It could have been better, but it looks okay. Next up, to create the muzzle burn effect on the pyroblasters, I mixed electric blue, sun yellow, and bloody red into a sepia brown wash, and I glazed it all over the muzzle, leaving just a bit of silver at both ends. After that, I thinned down gloomy violet with some express medium, and I carefully blended it into the sepia. Finally, I used an ultramarine blue glaze for just the tip. It was close to done, so I painted the bases black. I added some transfers. This was my first time using decals, but I think they came out pretty nice. Next, I started dry brushing some silver all over the guns, building up some edge highlights, but I also wanted to make the guns look worn and used. I also dry brushed the sergeant's wrist pad. After that, I picked out the details on the wrist pad with some Gauss green and electric blue. For the bases, I used some Agrel and Earth texture paint to give it a nice crackle. I don't think I'll be using my homemade mixture anytime soon. It had been about 6 hours of painting and I was starting to get exhausted, but I had to keep pushing and get these guys finished up. Once the texture paint crackled up real nice and was all dry, I added a black wash over all the bases. Next, I heavily dry brushed on some gray, rimmed the bases, added some tufts, and called it good. Now for the final reveal. This was super fun to paint. It was a challenge, but these guys turned out way better than my first Space Marine. This method is definitely a great way to get an army done quickly while still looking pretty solid. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe. Next week we're going to be painting Von Ryan's Leapers. And as always, thank you for watching.